Just a second, we need to start the recording, but it's going to be on my phone. Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for waiting, and we can start the event now. Just a few participants here. Let me just admit them all. Hello everybody to Pollinator Perspective Event. This is the first YEB event this year, and it is also one of the largest events that we made so far. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for all the panelists who join us for this event. We are starting with the Europe panel, and today with us we have Dr. Anna Ješovnik, Professor Ante Vujic, Dr. Thomas Wood, and Dr. Jovana Bila-Dubajic. I will keep this short, and I will allow them to introduce themselves and their work. Again, I propose the same order as on our social media. So we will start with Dr. Jovana Bila-Dubajic, then to Dr. Thomas Wood, Professor Ante Vujic, and Anna Ješovnik. The same order will be with the questions. Firstly, we have a small introduction of each panelist, and then we will start with the questions. For all of the participants, you can write your questions in the chat, and then I will read them to the panelists during the discussion. So, Dr. Jovana, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna share my screen. I actually had trouble deciding what to present, because I think the scope of my work is so all over the place. So let me just see, where is my presentation? Okay, what do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Or?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna put it in presenter mode. Okay, so well, today I decided to talk about one part of my work. It's actually monitoring invasive species. I do study bees. I'm interested in all bees, but there is one particular bee that I ended up doing my PhD about. So today I'm going to mention this part of my work. And when we say invasive species, we rarely think about bees, right? Because invasive is something negative, and bees are usually something, we have a perception of bees of really positive. We root for them. And this is why it's really easy to overlook this ecological risks that non-indigenous species can bring. Sorry. I'm just clicking faster than the slides are going. So the bee I will talk about today is called the sculptured resin bee, Megachila sculpturalis. It's actually Asian bee. It's native in eastern part of the China, Korea, and Japan. And it was first detected outside its native range in 1994 in the United States, and in Europe in 2008. And it is really distinctive bee. You can easily recognize it. It's huge, it's dark. You cannot mix it with any other bee species that lives in Europe, which is great, because it's we can easily monitor it and identify it reliably through photos, which is why it was a perfect a citizen science object. You cannot say this for every bee species. Probably everyone here knows how bees are diverse, and you cannot tell the species by looking at the photos. So this bee is really a really good study object, because you can involve people to help you gather data, which is what I did for my PhD. And this is a slide that we can talk for hours only about this slide. What is a native species? What is actually a non-native species? How do we measure it? Where do we draw a line time-wise? What do we measure? So I'm not going to talk about this. I'm just saying there are all these questions that we can discuss maybe later. But I want to draw your attention to this. When exactly do we say about that the species is invasive? What do we have to know about it to say, okay, this particular invasion is doing something and we can call it invasive? So, like I said, bees are generally connected to a positive perception, because we connect bees with their dominant role in pollination, which is huge for our planet, right? So these potentially negative impacts are easily overlooked. And for bees, these negative impacts can be competition for resources, spreading new pathogens, disruption of pollinator networks, and actually something that maybe not all of us think about, but invasive bees can also help spread invasive plants. So I think this is something really important. So when I started working on this particular bee species, I think the most curious people were beekeepers asking, will this new bee that came to Europe, will it affect honeybees? This was the most common question I had. And the answer is no. So this particular bee species have totally different lifestyle than honeybees. She's not attracted to hives or honey in any way. And the main concern with this particular bee species is her impact on other native species, wild bees, particularly solitary bees that choose same cavities as this species. So same the species that have same nesting nesting habitats, that choose the same habitats as this one. I'm sorry, I have trouble changing the slides, but here it is. And it's already been documented that this bee is particularly aggressive in nesting sites. There are cases that she evicts other bees from their nest, or just simply blocking their nest with her own offspring. But to try to wrap up, because we are limited in time, I also have to be very honest. We still lack an adequate approach to more accurately measure the impact of these bee species, and we have to have this information in order to say, is it invasive or not? So my work around this species is still on to answer this question. And to wrap up, I want to draw your attention to something really interesting here. We have IUCN technical guidance on how to manage invasive alien species to protect wild pollinators. And when you look at Megachila sculpturalis, all the, I wouldn't say advice, but guidance revolves around this plant, this tree, Stipnolobium japonicum, which is Japanese pagoda tree, that this bee really uses as a source of food. But then they say that what should we do to stop this bee from spreading? They say we should be careful about planting this tree. I found this really misguided. I find it really funny, because this tree is already all over the place. Every city in Europe has it in huge numbers. So this advice, it's kind of funny. I don't know. And what is lacking, and this is how I will finish my presentation, What is lacking is something that we should really be concerned when it comes to this bee. It's actually this plant. I don't know if you heard about this plant. It's called Pueraria montana, the notorious Cuju plant, one of the most invasive plants in the world. People in United States know how big problems it caused. And we don't talk about this plant. It's only started to spread in Europe, and this bee pollinates it. So pollinators can really change the story of invasive plants if they increase the seed set. And for this plant, maybe it's not too late to stop it because it's only starting to spread. And there is my colleagues from University of Salzburg are doing a project. It's called Pollination and Communication Ecology of Exotic Spreadings. And it will answer these questions. What will happen when Pueraria montana and Megachila sculpturalis meet in the field? So stay tuned. This story is just beginning. And yes, thank you for your attention. I'm glad to answer questions and discuss later.
Thank you, Dr. Jovana. I will give the floor now to Dr. Thomas Wood.
Dear, oh dear. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm actually currently in Australia doing fieldwork, so I haven't been able to produce any slides. So I'll just give you a very brief introduction to the work that I do. I'm currently based at the Naturalis Biodiversity Centre in the Netherlands, where I mostly focus on bee taxonomy, with a strong concentration on the bees of the Mediterranean basin, obviously including a lot of Mediterranean habitats in southern Europe. I would say my work has largely fallen into three parts. When I did my PhD, it was more applied on how managing farmland through agri-environment schemes, how that affected bee populations. I then worked on fundamental ecology of bees, so the pollen that they collected and how their dietary preferences altered their success through time. And after moving to Belgium and now the Netherlands, I focused much more extensively on bee taxonomy. I've become the regional authority for the genus Andrena, which is about 20% of European bees. And as part of European projects, I'm involved in writing a lot of identification keys for European bees, which will be used in the upcoming European Pollinator Monitoring Scheme. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And now I will give the floor to Professor Ante Vujic.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I look very many young faces. I'm very old, that means my experience, and something that I can say it's a little bit larger than most of you, but I like to share with you the screen, but I cannot do. I asked Davor to try to do that because I have some small presentation related to reason why we are now together here. Because this is something that must be said on the beginning. Why we can speak about pollinators on this way, because I worked with pollinators 40 some years or more, I don't know, but many. And there was no any chance that I speak about something like that become policy to protect part of the nature or to deal something about some group of insects. You have things related to the birds and sometimes for plants and other, but for insects, no. This is the first time that really insects go to the policy, and in this case, like group of family that are important for pollination. How that happened? That is because European Parliament or Europe or European policy recognized the problem with the pollinators, the declining of pollinators. And this is something that was start. Can you maybe go a little bit further? No, that was on the beginning. But okay, what happened? That was one scientific paper about that pollinator decline in Netherlands and UK, and that was in very prominent journal. But there are many many papers that are in prominent journals that not have any much influence on the policy. But in this case, that happened that Europe recognized the problem with pollinators because of decline of number of pollinators that can happen like problem for the agriculture. But we know the main problem is in the ecosystems, because if you have no pollinators, the ecosystem will crash. That means this is the reason, because start all this story about the policy, about the things that, to be honest, when I started 2012, and because I'm all the way on the process and I know what happened in the policy inside this organization and the European Commission, etc., etc., and I was thinking, okay, the resolution, it's nice, but that will not go further. I know that was my experience from my country, but luckily in Europe that happened opposite. They recognize the problem and they now act related to this thing, that now we become to the moment that we have proposal, or now it's not proposal, we have European Pollinator Monitoring Scheme. Because if you like to protect the pollinators, you need to know the status of pollinators. You need to know what happened in the nature during time, to know which measures you must include to help and protect them. And in this case, that was one group of scientists that was also, I was honored to be part of this group that work on the preparation of these proposals and to develop the ideas, the guidelines, the methodology, etc., etc. And now maybe you can go a little bit further on the slides. What happened? It is very important. This is Nature Restoration Law that was launched in June 2024. I don't know if many of you know about this law, but this is one of the most important law, I think, in all planet, because first time, this is not recommendation, this is not some thing, oh, it will be very important to improve the nature. This is a law. That means that should be. And this is very important. You can see some important part of this law, that Europe must restore at least 20% of European lands and sea by 2030. And all ecosystems need to be restored until 2050. This is absolutely ambitious, but it's in the law. That means they must put all effort to do that in the next years and next decades. This is something that is absolutely important. And why we are here and what is the novelty on this law? First time in this law, they are mentioned one group of organisms. This are pollinators. This never happened. No any other groups is mentioned in the law, but pollinators are recognized as the most important group that should be protected and restored in some way to stop the decline and to try to help them to become on better way in the future. This is something that is really important. And can give me this next slide. What happened that was last year, on the end of the year, appear delegated act. This is something that go from the law. Based on this delegated act, we will have the monitoring of pollinators in the future. From 2027, in all European countries or European Union countries, will be monitoring of pollinators like obligatory. And this monitoring will be on some method that was proposed by a group of experts. I was part of the group. And finally, this is something, when you look the cost and the effectiveness, that is the most appropriate method. This is transect, will be done in all European countries. In this delegated act, there are the numbers, etc., etc. Everybody can look on that if you are interested for your countries. And this is excellent opportunity for the young scientists to be part of this future work. And that is something that we should discuss also today. What is this method, and where is the place for the young scientists and the young people to be part of this monitoring scheme? Because this is one new ecological niche. I only can say that I'm from Serbia. I'm from Novi Sad University, and I have a team of maybe about 30 people working on pollinators. And this is, and we are now some new generation of young people that join us. That means we are very active, but I will not lose the time to speak about ourselves. But this is really something that was built in last 30 years, and now they have many sense. And we are like, now Serbia is not in European Union, but our organization is really present in each of the projects, not all, but most of the project related to pollinators. And now we are part of 7 actual and ongoing projects related to the pollinators in Europe, from different aspects, from science, pure science, until to discover what is the most important things related to the pesticides, how they influence the pollinators, until the project we now educate to people to become taxonomists for the hoverflies, because we work on hoverflies, one of the most important, second important group of the pollinators in Europe. And we actually have these courses ongoing now, and will be extension next year. Maybe some of the young people present here can join us in the 2027. Thank you very much. I maybe say many things, but I have to do that.
Thank you, Professor Ante. And now I will give the floor to Dr. Anna Jesovnik.
Thank you, Davor, and thank you for invitation to speak today, and thank you all of you who joined on Saturday to talk about pollinators. I also had presentation, but I cannot share my screen, but it is very brief, and I will just tell you a little bit about my background and a little bit about my work. So I'm Anna Jesovnik, I'm from Croatia, and I'm a biologist. I have a master's degree in biology and education from University of Zagreb, and I have a PhD in entomology from University of Maryland. So I did my PhD in the United States. And during my formal education, I didn't work on pollinators. I refer to this period as my ant era. Both my master and PhD thesis focused on ants, not bees or hoverflies or butterflies. However, this is a period when I really realized I have a passion for taxonomy and for natural history collection, and that is something that I still have. So when I came back to Croatia, I got a job in conservation sector. I worked for a governmental institution that deals with nature protection at the national level in Croatia, Institute for Environment and Nature. And it is in conservation sector that I really ran into pollinators as a topic, as a emerging subject. And I got really interested in them and fell in love with them. And I decided to write a project and got funding for a project that I called Krobaz Klima. And the main motivation for this project for me was the fact that I realized that in Croatia, what we really lack is recent data and experts, so 0 experts, on 2 most important groups of pollinators, and those are hoverflies and wild bees. The project lasted from 2021 to 2024, so it was about 3 years. We did a lot of fieldwork across Croatia. We collected a lot of data, did urban ecology study. We tested the pollinator monitoring methodology for the project, some of the projects that Ante mentioned previously. And we started a reference collection of wild bees and hoverflies for Croatia. And actually, because I worked for the governmental sector, this also gave me an opportunity to participate in policy making processes of EU as representative for Croatia. So I didn't join it as a scientist like Ante did, but as a representative of my country. And so this was really exciting for me. As you just heard from Ante, these recent years are really important for pollinator policy. It started in 2018. The nature restoration regulation that Ante mentioned came out in 2024. So, pollinator protection is now legally binding. This is the hardest legal instrument that we have. So a really huge improvement. And the delegated act or the delegated regulation that Ante mentioned, I think the most revolutionary thing about this policy is that it gives us, for the first time, the policy prescribed standardized method. So not every country is going to do their own thing, and the data is never going to be comparable, but we have standardization at the policy level, at the really continental scale. So it's really important for protection. It's really important also for good quality of data. There is one challenge when it comes to implementing such large policy on such a large scale, and that is one of the challenges is definitely taxonomic capacity. So what that means is that we don't have enough people who can recognize species of wild bees, hoverflies, butterflies, and moths. These are the groups that are going to be monitored. And in my most recent position since 2024, I'm a curator and collection manager of zoology collection at University of Zagreb. And what I'm thinking about right now, and some of the projects that I work on right now, are projects that are trying to continue building a national reference collection for pollinators, write checklists for these groups, adopt taxonomy keys for Croatia. So really, I'm thinking about how to help build infrastructure that will enable the next generation of taxonomists, scientists, field specialists to study and protect pollinators. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Jesovnik. And thank all of you for your introductions. And we can start with the roundtable discussion now. Some of you already mentioned different acts and legal activities related to pollinators. So I'll ask again the question: how effective do you think the EU level strategies have been in practice? And if you can change just one policy tomorrow to improve pollinator conservation in Europe, what policy would that be? And we can start with Dr. Jovana.
Oh, okay. Well, I come from Serbia, and we have a lot of practical problems on paper. I mean, we do have a lot of policies that are kind of good, but the implementation is really, really poor. And I think for other countries, it's similar. Like, policies often look really strong on paper, and then it really depends on how are they translated into, national legislation, and are they implemented. So in Serbia, pollinators officially are still addressed mainly through the lens of honeybees and the agricultural sector, unfortunately, rather than biodiversity and what it should be. The question, if I could change one policy tomorrow, a lot of work I did revolved around agricultural landscapes, and I see many problems around that, and I don't like where our agriculture systems go, not only Europe, worldwide. So if I could change something, I think I would put not a recommendation, not something that can be done, but as obligatory, not optional. I would probably focus on agricultural areas to put something that everybody has to obey, not to have monocultures, to bring back semi-natural habitats to agricultural areas, because I see agriculture as this expanding field that is putting more and more pressure, not just on pollinators. It simplifies these huge areas, it disrupts networks, I don't see it sustainable in a way we are doing it now. So I think I would go in that direction to change how we do agriculture.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
So, agri-environment schemes can be effective at a farm scale in boosting, in a broad sense, bee abundance. But at a European scale, what I would say they do to a large extent is that they lead to a certain level of homogenization. Because you've had a process of agricultural simplification, and then you're adding back into this simplified system schemes which do increase bee numbers, but they're not replacing the heterogeneity of agricultural systems that have been lost. And that would follow into my answer to the second part. If I was changing one policy tomorrow, it would be changing the ironic situation where farmers in the north are paid to try and restore biodiversity, and farmers in the south are paid to intensify their agriculture. So I would take low intensity farming systems that currently exist and ask farmers to maintain their way of farming, particularly in places like southern Bulgaria or in Greece, because these systems currently have a lot of bee diversity, and we simply need to maintain the way they are currently farmed.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
Thank you. I only must say that this regulation in Europe is like miracle. Like in the Christmas movies, you have this Christmas miracle that happens, something that really you can have like tool to implement something by law. This is absolutely incredible for me, because I have a long experience in my life. I see many things, but this is something that we must think that is something that not happen all the time. And you see later on the other continents, this is much farther than the realization. This is only like scientists say that there are some problems, and policy try to avoid the problem, like for the future. But if I like, that means Europe is in the best position. I'm sure among all the continents, Europe have the best position to really preserve the pollinators. But if I like to change something, that will be for sure a restoration of nature restoration law. Because in the initial version, that was proposal to reduction of the pesticides on very precise way. How many percent each country must go in every year to put less pesticides on the field. Because I don't know if I not mentioned that, but this is reality. In Europe, we have loss of insects biomass, more than half in last 20 years. This is something that this is catastrophic. Really, you cannot imagine that can happen, that half of biomass not exist anymore on the nature, not only on the agriculture, everywhere. And this is very bad situation. And this should be mostly because of the pesticides. That means if I like to do something, I will change this part and go, because that was high pressure from the industry of the pesticides industry, that they try to avoid this part in the law, and this part go out of the law. I like to restore this part in the law. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Anna Yashovnik?
I agree with everything everybody said. So we have really good laws for pollinators right now. The problem will be to implement it, for them to actually make some change. We do have some legislation in agriculture that is good. The implementation is perhaps also not so great. And I think we should protect what already works and exists rather than try to reinvent something new. And in terms of dream policy, there was a proposal for, I forget its name, but it's pesticide regulation that was discussed during the last 2 or 3 years. And then it fell down. It didn't go through because because they proposed to reduce the risk for pesticide too much for everybody to agree on. So I would like to see that really to happen, because I think it benefits everyone, including our food systems.
Thank you. And before moving to the next question, there's a question in the chat. A colleague is asking how can he be involved and contribute to capacity of your projects regarding wild bees?
I can say something, but maybe Anna also. The project, the name is Epic Bee. This is led by Belgium, Barmons University, and you can go to their website. They try to make connection and ask. There are still place for the future training courses, because that will be also this and next year. And this is the way how some young people can proceed. Maybe Anna can add something.
Yeah, I can try to search for the link and put it in the chat. I think there will be more, because the project got 1-year extension. I think there will be more opportunities to apply for training. So training in wild bee taxonomy is something that's maybe the easiest way to start to get involved in this type of projects if you're interested in wild bees. I'll search and put the link.
Thank you. And moving to the next question, we can maybe merge 2 questions. So one question is, what are currently the biggest threats to pollinator biodiversity across Europe? And what are your biggest challenges as researchers when researching pollinator populations in Europe? Dr. Joanna, again.
Okay. So what are the biggest threats? Well, threats are very well documented so far. We already know it's habitat fragmentation, it's climate change, it's invasive species, right? And what we already mentioned, the pesticide exposure. I mean, agricultural intensification in general. So we already know what are the biggest threats. The problem is we cannot look at them, study them, research them in isolation. It's not that simple. So one negative pressure can make other negative pressures even worse. So it's not one single factor that is biggest. It's this cumulative pressure, I can say. And I don't know, sometimes when I say all these negative factors, people will say, oh, there's nothing we can do. This is bigger than us. This is huge. And in some way that's true. But still, I like to be positive and say, okay, maybe we cannot stop this or change this, but let's see what we can do. And then go from there, because like I said, everything is connected. If you cannot help pollinators in one way, maybe you can lower the pressure somewhere else, and then they can face other pressures better. And I think the biggest, what did you say about the biggest challenge that the researchers face?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would say funding, and then this goes along with the capacity, because if we had more funding for this kind of science in general and research, we would have more people. I think the lack of people is the biggest problem. Like, we are there in the field, we know what to do, but there's not enough of us. We already mentioned what is the bottleneck. It's taxonomy. Pollinators are incredibly diverse. In order to conclude anything, you need to know what species you're dealing with. So identification requires expertise that is becoming more rare. So we need more taxonomists out there. And Anna and Ante already mentioned how important it is to have standardized protocols, monitoring schemes, etc. Because it's we cannot work independently how we want. We need more data that we can compare. So I think this is something we need to work more on EU level, which is being done already, but I don't think it's still on that level that we should be happy. We should go toward it more. So I think we are trying to do things for biodiversity with tools and budget that are not scaled to this problem. So I hate to say it. I hate that my answer is funding, but I think funds on our planet, in our world, goes to wrong places. I think it should be more towards science and answering questions. We have the questions, we don't have all the answers. And I think we are wasting funds on other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
So yes, as Ivana said, the threats to bees are very well documented at this point. If I give a single answer in terms of the most acute problem for bee extinction, if we look at the upcoming European Red List, it will be the loss of steppe grasslands in the Pannonian Basin and further east across the grain belt that runs into Ukraine and southern European Russia. That's where we have the greatest concentration of species facing extinction. And the greatest challenge, I would say actually is an intrinsic problem, is that insects are selected organisms. They have extremely large population sizes, and they vary enormously from year to year, and in space and in time. This is a fundamentally difficult issue of measuring and quantification, which is just inherent. He's just inherent.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
Thank you. I will only start with one, that loss of habitat and microhabitats is very important for the pollinators, because sometimes you cut one tree on the forest and you lose the habitat for many, many species, and the species cannot survive. It's something that happened. And you even not aware that this is important tree, or I don't know, some marshy area or something like that. But seems to me that now, but I will continue with this, that a loss of biomass cannot be because of other reasons, that should be because of pesticides. And now we have this project, the name is Wild Posh, and there are one other Pollinera, two projects dealing with influence of pesticides on the pollinators. And previous some records was based on the investigation of the honeybee and some bombus, and we know the level of how pesticides influence on this species or group of species. But now working on this project, we have absolutely results that are very, 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 very alarming. That means many other species have much, much less possibility to adapt to the pesticides. And sometimes they are 20 or 50 times more sensitive than bombus, or 10 or 20 or 30 times than honeybee. That means the level of influence of the pesticides is not clear now. And based on these two projects, I hope that we will raise this question. This is really, you cannot deal with this level of pesticides in Europe. I have one good example from Switzerland. They, I think 10 years ago or something like that, they stopped the pesticides in, I don't know, 90%, because they decide we don't know the pesticides around us. They are rich and they can say that. And what happened? They not lose almost nothing from agriculture without pesticide. That means this is only the industry of, they produce pesticides, say, oh, this is very bad, you will lose many, but it's not true. Switzerland is the example. This is not true, and the nature recover very fast, including pollinators. I was there in the field, and now you see that how nature is adaptable and can recover very, very fast. But if you continue to this pressure of the that you will lose all, and that will be no possibility to the biodiversity to recover. That means, for me, this is the main challenge. The at this moment, this is something that must be known in all the policymakers and the among the people, that the using of pesticides is terrible for the pollinators. And related to the challenges for the research, I have one. I will say something that others maybe not recognize, but maybe they know. What is they are the permits to work like scientists in the nature. This is absolutely incredible, because based on the scientific results, you protect some area, and after that, it's not allowed to you, to scientists, to go there without extremely complicated long-term process to get the permit. What is the sense of that? That means this administration or bureaucracy take over science, and they say, oh, you must tell me when you come, you must allow me to, I will allow you, maybe not. I know I have this extreme example from Spain. They protect one area based on the result of one group of scientists, and now these scientists cannot enter to this protected area to see what really happened further with the biodiversity. That means this is no any sense. You can cut the tree, you can enlarge the agriculture, you can do many things, it's no problem. But if you go with net, somewhere you are danger. You are something that you will destroy our species. This is absolutely stupid. And I don't know how to change that, but this is something that I really not happy. Not me, most of the scientists. This is bureaucracy.
Thank you. And Dr. Anna?
Yes, I think threats have been well addressed, and some of the things that we are lacking as well by the previous speakers. I would just add that maybe not funding itself is such a big problem, although it definitely is, it could be better, but the amount of permanent positions, and especially the amount of permanent positions for taxonomy. So this is one area where we are really lacking. So if I could change something and recommend something, it would be give more permanent positions to people that are taxonomists.
Thank you. Another question related kind of to the policy and everything that we talked so far. How well connected are European countries in sharing pollinator research data? Dr. Jovana?
Okay. Well, depends. I mean, there has been significant progress, I would say, in I don't know, last decade. There are EU-funded projects, Horizon programs, cost actions. There are all these international initiatives that make us work together, share knowledge, and just increasing collaboration, sharing data. But I think we should do more. It's not this connectivity. I would say it's uneven. It's still not even. And I would say that some countries have a really good data about pollinators, and some countries lack data. So we still are, I don't know, there are some really good projects that I would say are good examples of collaboration and sharing data, but still some countries have maybe a lot of data that is still unpublished, or it stays locally stored, and this should be changed. So I would say that scientifically we are well connected. We all read each other's paper, and we are happy for every new paper that is out there, which means more data, more information. But structurally, we are still not there. I think it can be much better, and it should be better.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
I mean, this is an extremely challenging question to answer in a pithy nature. If I was to focus purely on specimen data, which I'm more qualified to talk about, it's extremely variable. Some countries like Switzerland have an extremely high quality of publicly available data hosted through GBIF, which also has every specimen being validated. Some countries are increasingly getting data onto GBIF, but it's unclear the level of validation, whether people have actually checked all specimens and ensured that they actually match the current species concepts. And for many countries, specimens may exist, but they're not digitized at all. So it's really extremely heterogeneous across Europe.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
Thank you again. The cooperation is really now much better than before 10 or 20 years. This is really something that we have many communication, many sharing information, and we have now, thanks to this possibility that you can send on one email to some group and you get answer in 1 minute. I know when I start, I must write the letter to someone to send me something, and that take weeks, and now takes 2 minutes to get some information. This is really something that we use a lot. And this is great, and also because there are so many ongoing projects and will be in the future, this is great opportunity to build this network of the scientists that work together and improve all the system and the knowledge about the scientific point of view. But sometimes you have this problem with human nature, because like I can say, this is my data, this is that means some people don't like to share because they are their own data, that they go to field, collect, and they not think that they can give to others because they think they deserve some, I don't know, maybe some money for that or some recognition. That means this can be one of the problems to put together all the data, but it's again is less and less, because now people like to share the photos on the social media, and they like to ask for identification. That means now these things, thanks to the modern technology, go much faster than previously. That means for me this is very good situation now comparing 20 years ago.
Dr. Anna?
Yes, so my experience for wild bees and horflies in Europe has been really positive and really great. And I'm speaking as somebody from a country where I didn't have anybody in Croatia to talk to. So this was really very important for me to hear about projects, check my specimens, learn things. So I think to me it seems that the collaboration is good and that the community is really friendly and open. But it is also what Tom said about sharing the data and the data standards and the number of digitized specimens. This is also something I think about when I think about our collections. Croatia is really, really behind. We are like a third world country when you look at the GBIF data from collections that are out there. So this is something that perhaps is something that next generation can think about, not just think about collecting, but think about what are the data standards that I'm going to apply to this, and how am I going to make this data that I collect the most useful that it can be. And in terms of the need of some people, usually it's older generation that wants to, but not exclusively, that doesn't want to share the data. I think it's more of a systemic problem. If you work for an institution that has public funding, this should be a requirement. It shouldn't be up to discussion. So once you publish something, you should be sharing the data to help new collaborations and science.
Thank you. When designing these questions, so you'll have multiple panels today, and the European panel, the first one, all the questions will be similar, so people who are joining us for the entire event can compare your answers and answers from people from different continents. And the questions are also kind of ordered in a way so we can start with more bleak topics and towards the end be more positive and motivating for people. So coming to maybe kind of popular question, but how is climate change shifting species distribution across European regions? And maybe we can start this time with Dr. Ishovnik.
Okay. Well, climate change is, well, when we talk about bees, first of all, bees are really Mediterranean taxa. They thrive in hot and dry climates. So there are some species of wild bees that are actually increasing their ranges thanks to climate change. There is one group of bees that is most affected by climate change, as far as we know for now, and those are bumblebees, because they are cold and temperate climate adapted, so they are not doing so well in terms of their range shifts. And in general, climate change impacts all organisms directly and indirectly. And for pollinators, directly, it is going to be the impact on physiology, for example, increase in hot days, if it's harder to tolerate, the different minimum and average winter temperatures, which impact the overwintering phase of an organism. But also it impacts, of course, the plants that bees depend on. And this results in desynchronization of the plants and the animals that depend on those plants and pollinate those plants. So everybody is really losing there.
Thank you. Dr. Joanna?
Yeah, so this topic is not my primary research focus, but I do read a lot because I'm curious. What Anna mentioned, I think it's the biggest problem. I mean, you ask about how is affecting, is it shifting distributions and stuff. I think this, what Anna mentioned, this phenological mismatch, like when the flower will bloom, when the bee will be active, and not only time-wise, but also they sometimes cannot find themselves, the pollinator and the plant, in space and sometimes in time because of climate change. And I think I think we still don't know answers to all these questions. And yes, it is I think if you look at the research, really well documented examples are bumblebees. And what I found really concerning, when you talk about climate change, you say, okay, species will move, they will go more northern, more in, I don't know, higher altitudes. But then there is thing we call ecological trap. Like, you can move upwards, but, mountains also have limits. You can, at some point, you become isolated, fragmented, and it really concerns me, like where there's no species can adapt, they can move, they can change their distribution, but to what point? So I think this topic is not the positive one. It's good that you ask this now if you want to end on positive note.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
I will largely go against the grain and say that climate change will largely have positive effects on bee diversity in aggregate at a European scale. I'm not pro climate change. Let's make that extremely clear. But largely they will adapt and deal with it. And I would also say, when you start looking at bees in terms of all their diversity at a global scale, I'm quite skeptical of arguments about plant pollinator mismatches. Bees are intensely sensitive to tracking their host plants, and they are able to survive in extremely inhospitable circumstances in deserts across the world. So I think they will adapt very rapidly to shifting circumstances. And these things have survived for 100 million years in very challenging conditions. So yeah, I'm not pro climate change, but I think they'll surprise us with their resilience.
Thank you. Professor Ante, anything to add?
Yes, because we speak mostly about the bees, but horseflies, they are different, in different position. They are not happy with climate change. Only some group can have benefit from the climate change. They are Mediterranean genera, but others for sure not. I'm witness of disappearance of some species already on the high mountains. Why? Because like Jovana told, this is impossible. If you have some limit in the altitude, you cannot go higher. And if no higher, you cannot survive. And I know that in some mountains, I know some mountains on Balkan Peninsula, that for species that not exist anymore. And the problem with these species, some of them or many of them are endemics. That means they appear only on the high mountains. You cannot replace them and you expect that they will adapt to something, because they cannot adapt. They will disappear, and they all already disappear. And we have some papers related to the modeling of the, based on those climatic scenarios for the future until 2050. Like one genus, Cheilosia, this is the second large genus of horseflies in Europe. On Balkan Peninsula, they will lose about 90% of the species. They will not be there 2050. This is absolutely catastrophic. Maybe they will be full with bees, but regarding the biodiversity, this is something that we cannot, nature cannot survive on this way. That means this future is not nice if the climate change continue. Other aspect is the level of the humidity, because many forests now have problem to survive because they have no enough water on the ground, and they try to. I didn't know Quercus forests have now in our area problem to survive because every year is less and less water and rain, and that can be again problem that they cannot. This forest cannot move. This is on somewhere, and they cannot skip 200 kilometers because this is agriculture between. This is not something that nature can recover for themselves because we are there like humans. This is not some like we move to the north. No, we cannot move to the north because no some corridor to move to the north. That means this is really for the future the most high threat will be climate change, at least for the horseflies.
Thank you. Now moving to a little bit of philosophical question. How can we better balance economical development with pollinating conservation goals? Primarily maybe thinking about agriculture and less about industry. Dr. Jovana?
Yes, this is one of the interesting topics, because the perception is that we have economic development, and then we think we have this perception that nature conservation or biodiversity or pollinator conservation is something to oppose this. So people who are for conserving biodiversity are against economic development. It's not. It shouldn't be like that. But at the moment, this is how I see it around me. It's either one or the other. And I think the real problem in this kind of thinking is, are we thinking short term or long term? like many decisions are prioritizing immediate yield, immediate economic benefits. And then if we look at the long term, it would be better for us. Like this is what I always have struggled explaining. If you want short term yields and whatever, you will end up bringing decisions into place that are not sustainable. And maybe for today you decide something so you have benefits tomorrow, but in a long term this is not sustainable. You cannot have profit in a collapsing ecosystem. Even if we are talking about agriculture ecosystems, we need this to be a functioning ecosystem. So I think this is how can we find a better balance is to stop looking short term and start looking long term. This is for me, this is simple, but it's not so easy to implement it because people are sadly just looking for their lifetime. For even the decision makers, they are deciding only for their own lifetime in politics. So I think we need more biologists saying in the long term this is not sustainable. If you want to make money, if this is that everything is about, then do this for long term.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
Well, I'm very much not qualified to answer this question as I have no economics training. But a couple of thoughts would be that this is in my opinion, easier question to answer in areas that have already suffered a great deal of pollinator decline, such as in Northwestern Europe, where, for example, smart approaches such as ecological intensification, where you're attempting to restore pollinators and increase the productivity of the land, for example, through increased pollination services. I think that is somewhere where you can do both, but in areas that have not yet been intensified, such as southwestern Bulgaria, where I was 2 years ago, it is extremely difficult for me to see how you can meet goals of rural economic development without severely being in direct conflict with a biodiverse landscape. But yes, one would have to sit down with economists and start crunching the numbers.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
I think the main problem is communication between the politicians and science. If there are no communication, no solution, because they will not listen if they not are forced to listen. And this is, I have two examples, one in my own country. This is the case in most of the world, I think, that politicians not like to listen too much scientists because that will be some proposal that I don't like. But I have also this experience from European Union, and this is the best possible solution because I was in many meetings in Brussels with the scientists. That means they are scientists that go through the many level of decisions. They propose some things, and between politician and science, they are this medium level. The people that deal with this data that get from scientists, and they propose to politicians something that is really realistic and good. That means this is the way how we can resolve the problem, that scientists have a good possibility to express their own results and propose some measures, and that affect the policy. Because this is I already mentioned this Switzerland and pesticides example. They reduce the pesticide, but the agriculture remain with the same results, even better. That means it's no proof that if you do some extreme measures in the agriculture that they will you will get more money. This is not true, but this is some like legend that, oh, you must invest and do many things in agriculture and you will get more now. But as Joanna say, on the long term, this is not sustainable. That means this communication between science and policy is a way how we can overcome these problems in the future. Economies, I think Thomas say that we should discuss with economists, but sometimes I think they have not enough information from the basic science related to the nature that will be not so easy to discuss with them. But I like to discuss if I have possibility. Like with the forestry people, I discuss many times with forestry people what they should change in the how they manage the forest. But they not listen to me because they think that they know better the forest than me. But this is reality that scientists should be really on the position that they can influence the political decisions.
Thank you. Dr. Ježovnik?
I guess this is one of the hard questions. I'm also not an economist, but I do think that our civilization is built on economy, so we should be thinking about it and not completely dismiss it. And I've been involved a little bit in a project that's called Valor that is trying to calculate. It's really based around, it has many different things, but it's based around ecosystem services, but on a little bit more in-depth level than what was previously done for pollinators, value chains, different industry, not just agriculture, and so on. And some of the people that work on these projects are those economists that think very deeply about integrating nature into development and growth, although it is a little bit of a conundrum. How is this possible? But in some cases, maybe it is. So I'm very excited to see what comes out of that and what changes are being done in industry and business in that terms. I don't understand the lingo, and I have a feeling that a lot of this is going to be greenwashing, but I do know some people that do care about this very deeply. So I'm reluctantly optimistic.
Thank you. And kind of following up on this topic of farmers and agriculture, what is your experience in collaborating with the local communities and strategies to most effectively engage them in pollinator conservation? In my brief experience, one of the effective ways is when you talk about pollinators, talk about how they provide economical benefit to them. So if they conserve pollinators, they will get more profit. And that seems to actually quite effectively work. But I want to hear your experience. Dr. Joanna?
Yes, well, collaboration with non-scientists, I think it's something we should all really invest our time in. And it all comes down to science communication. Some people don't think it's important. Like, I'm a scientist, I go to field work, I collect data, I analyze these data, I publish, and that's it. But if it stays within the scientific community, what's the point of, like many of us pointed out here, we need policymakers to understand us. We need local people that maybe we want to protect something. If it comes to this law that will protect on paper and local people will not understand or will see it only as some kind of punishment to them, what's the point? So I think all of us scientists, not only us that deal with pollinators, we really need to work on our communication skills. And if we are not good at it, maybe find someone else that is. And the point is being, like you, Davor, now mentioned, to find the perspective of the people you're trying to say some message. So what is this target group you're trying to communicate to? Why is this important to them? Why this would be important to them? And try to explain it in a not just meaningful way, but understandable way. So I don't know. I think collaboration with local communities is really important. Sometimes local communities have this knowledge that us as scientists cannot measure, cannot detect. So I think we should listen more, take their perspective, what is important. I don't know if it's farmers, if it's people that live in national park areas, or whatever it is. Whoever we are trying to talk to, we need to see their perspective and not just, tell them scientific facts. I mean, we are always saying scientific facts, we are right and everything, but we need to find a way to do it, because I think I already mentioned, I'm repeating myself, I think this collaboration between policymakers, wider audience, local people, it's crucial. It's not like we will all benefit from it. I think it's essential, because any kind of conservation will not work if you don't have people on your side.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
I'm actually going to pass on this question because I've spent the last 10 years gathering scientific fact, and I don't really interact with stakeholders at the moment, so I will pass, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
Opposite to Thomas, I have many examples what happen on the field related to people, local people. That was one project in Serbia, also in Serbia, in Young Europe, but Alarm was the name. And we need to get information about how much pesticide they use for the agriculture for their field. And that was one of the tasks on the project, to collect this data from directly go to the people and speak with them. And I am, I'm Ante, scientist, and I approached like scientists, said, oh, we have this project, it's very important, blah, 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 blah. And the answer was, I don't know, my son deal with that, he is not here now, or I don't like to answer to you because potentially he think that I will misuse this data. I cannot convince him that this data will be confidential only for the scientific. Impossible. But that was one other colleague. He worked with Lepidoptera. Jakšić he's now from Belgrade. He had other approach to this person, not this, but others. And he arrived and, oh, how are you? Can we drink some rakia and speak about the life? And after fifth round of rakia, this person tell him the information that he needs to get. That means I'm not the best person to do that, but there are also people that can do that. But this is very local. You can go and speak with, we are a limited number of people. We can go and speak and convince maybe few people. And after that, this is not enough. I have other example in the last year when you go somewhere in Europe, because this is now in the news, everywhere appear about pollinators, they declined, we like to protect the bees. They are even in the movies appear something about the protection of bees, and now this is something that is accepted in the among the people. This is fact, and really we need to protect bees. This is very important. And after that, if you go anyway, people are very happy to share everything with you. Even they ask, oh, in my garden, I like to improve the community of pollinators, which plant I must put here, etc., etc. That means this is different. If we like to do that on this way, that must be some high-level decision and some way how to influence on the people on this national level or some regional level of continental level, because this is most effective. Other is we can be like Jakšić, that we convince 20 people, but this is not enough because there are 100 other, they cannot be visited by Jakšić. That means we need again some support from the policy, and they must decide about that, how to change the narrative.
Thank you. Dr. Yashovnik?
Yeah, I mostly do outreach, like public talks or at schools. I don't have that many interactions with stakeholders as well. So my advice would be, as for communicating about anything, is to really think about the audience, not just what you find the most interesting, but what they don't know and they would like to learn and feel good if they learn about it. And for pollinators, we have this amazing opportunity to talk about how it impacts their life directly. And I like to mention how pollinators are important for both cotton and coffee. And then I tell them that the next morning when they wake up, if they find themselves drinking coffee while wearing their favorite cotton pajama, they should thank the pollinators for both the coffee and pajama. And I think this just connects it more to their everyday lives. So that's my advice.
Thank you. Moving maybe towards more positive themes, hopefully. What kind of international collaboration do you think are most needed in the next decade, and where should the global pollinator research priorities be focused by, let's say, 2030? Dr. Joanna.
Yes. Well, I think all of us briefly already mentioned what we need in the next decades. I think what would benefit most, not just to pollinators, to biodiversity in general, is not, well, like now we have localized project, localized research, and then what we need is to cover bigger areas, because some ecological trends we can only capture on larger scales, and we also need some long-term projects. So not just 1 season, 2 season, we compare and there are conclusions that are not really good. So I would say bigger collaboration to cover more areas, because species don't know, boundaries of countries. They don't care about these artificial boundaries. So we need more landscape-based projects, long-term, with standardized monitoring. This is something I think we should have conclusions not after 1 or 2 seasons of field work, but at least 5. So this is how I picture a really important project. I know it's not something that would be very popular with funders, but I think scales, like what are we covering, and time-wise, we are not doing the good job. We need bigger and longer collaborations across continents.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
So you specifically say global pollinator research priorities. So whilst we have spent the last hour and a bit talking about all the problems in European pollinator research and data, etc., Europe is the best placed continent in terms of data quality and understanding of our fauna. There are very few mysteries left in the European pollinator world in terms of the taxonomy and concepts of species. But when you start to step outside of Europe, then you encounter almost immediately a very severe taxonomic deficit. Most acutely in Southeast Asia, South and Southeast Asia, and in Africa, and to a lesser degree in countries like Australia, but it is still substantial. They have massive problems with even understanding what the basic names are to apply to species and in species concepts. And sharing data across borders, particularly in Southeast Asia, is extremely challenging due to ongoing political tensions. So my research priorities at a global level are trying to achieve stable species concepts, because as ecologists, if we do not have a stable species concept, we simply cannot communicate. Or at least we cannot communicate consistently. And in terms of collaborations, it would be between Western institutions that have types and have some taxonomic capacity, and the global South that lack taxonomic capacity and lack institutions and lack type material. Those two need to be joined together.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
Thank you. There are many aspects, but I will only say something related to how we can learn, like entomologists, from some other people that deal with other groups. I will say something about the birds, because the ornithologists have a really global network and they cooperate between each other a lot. They build the system that in many cases not depends on some huge amount of money, because they do that voluntarily. That means they are very well connected, because they are totally crazy about birds and very enthusiastic about that. And they build this system that you have something like they call this important bird area. That means this is something that we can build on the global level, communicate with other scientists from different countries to try to understand which part of our country is important for some group of pollinators. That can be one thing, that we build a network, global network of the important areas on the planet, and try to go on the direction that the people, ornithologists, already achieved, that this is something that every policy take in consideration, this area, the species, etc. And that is something that we can do, but it's not short term, because in many countries we really have nobody who deal with pollinators, and this is the problem. That means on the European level it's possible. I think it's possible also on the level of North America, but for the others, well, I don't know. It's not so easy. But I like if we can find people in the countries out of Europe. They really like to join us and work on taxonomy.
And how it impacts some groups yet fully. And one of the reasons is because we haven't been following it for a long time, and to have stable funding for it internationally. But I also really like what Tom said and what Ante said, so I signed to that as well.
Thank you. One question regarding the young scientists is, how do you see the next generation of young scientists changing the field, hopefully improving it? Dr. Jovana?
Well, we have an interesting situation in Serbia for the last year with young people that completely changed my mind what I think of new generation. If you ask me this question a few years ago, I would say I don't know. But yeah, Serbian students changed my mind. So I think the young generation of scientists and students, I think they grew up with climate change, with biodiversity loss, with pollution. This is the reality to them, and not just future abstract risk that we were growing up, at least me. So I think they're not accepting any I don't know, superficial narratives or short-term fixes. They can recognize greenwashing when they see it, and I think they're really more comfortable with questioning existing systems. and I think it's really good. And I wish I was more like that. So I think what I said, it's at least for young people that I encounter. I cannot say for other countries worldwide, but I think younger generations, what we used to say about them is that you're spoiled, you want everything you want now without any struggle. I think that partly maybe is true, but it's also a good thing, because you're not easily tricked into something that's not at the level it should be. So to answer your questions, I think the generation of young scientists that are now learning and starting their careers will bring a really good thing. This is how I feel positive about younger generation.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
So, young biologists today are gaining their skills in a world that is much more data heavy than it has been in the past. And that's a challenge, but it does also represent an opportunity. People are speaking a lot about high throughput monitoring, for example, high throughput DNA monitoring or image recognition. I remain quite skeptical, not of the concept, but of the current implementation. And I think there will be young scientists who come along who really tackle this technology and take it to the next level. And I hope that it will be a level that communicates with the past level, so we can bring 250 years of study and make sure that it's not lost as these new data heavy and technology heavy approaches are implemented. So I think that's how the field will be changed, and fingers crossed it continues to bring along all of our accumulated knowledge at the same time.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
Thanks. I have great pleasure to monitor the young generation, because we have now 6 or 7 young people, students, or they finished just now, and they are very enthusiastic, and I so happy to work with them, and I hope that also they appreciate that we can cooperate in the future also. But they are really very open to learn, to accept new things, and to be very curious. That means this is something that I was in my generation that was 70 students on biology, and that was only maybe 3% interested to anything. One of that was me, but that was like, well, we like to get some job, do not work a lot, etc., etc. But that this is now, I see these people, they are really different. They are very curious. They are maybe too fast. That means there are many around them, and they are happy to explore many options. But on the other way, they are very active, and they can be very good for the future, especially in the science. And this is the same experience. This is like experience from Serbia that support Jovan's opinion. But I know now many people from Europe, Anna is one of this person, that are really also very enthusiastic from the beginning, very open, like to improve their knowledge, and they invest the time to get that. That means this is really good generation. I really totally opposed to all this that we say, oh, all generations are different. When I was young, my parents think that I not good because I not go on the same way like they do the things, but this is the same with the new generation, and I see much potential among them. This is how I see the things after so many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Šonik?
First of all, thank you, Ante, for considering me young. So the next generation, I think, like everybody mentioned, I think it's more comfortable with using technologies, and I think they will make a better use of AI or whatever it comes, and integrating that into existing scientific research we have. I also think that, at least in Croatia, young generation is better at communicating and maybe saying why things are important to them. And I do have a feeling, and especially now with examples from Serbia, that they are more politically engaged than at least my generation in Croatia was. So I would just like to extend this to ask the young generation to also be politically engaged about pollinators. And, for example, to ask of their governments, what are they doing to implement EU pollinator monitoring?
Thank you. Now, switching to one question that we asked on our last event about marine biology, and all of the panelists really liked it. So, if you could design one dream research project with no funding limits at all, what would you design? And Dr. Jovana, you can start.
Well, I think I answered a lot of your questions with the similar topic. I'm really interested in how agriculture is developing, because I strongly believe we are not going in the right direction, and I strongly feel that how agriculture is developing is revolving around money. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theories person, but I think pesticide people are driving how the agriculture is developing, and I don't think it's good for anybody, people, pollinators, other creatures out there. So I would really like, if I would have no limits in funding, I would go back to the thing I already mentioned, is to create a project on larger level, to see, can we create different type of agriculture to move away from monocultures, pesticide based. So I would really like this large scale project that will bring us concrete evidence or how different approaches can work. So I think I would go to that direction.
Dr. Thomas?
I need to think for a moment. Can someone else go?
Yes, of course. Professor Ante?
For me, this is an easy question. My dream and my idea is to understand and research the global biodiversity of pollinators. That means to understand all the species on the, not all, but most of the species on the planet in all countries, to improve the knowledge about the species that are present. This is something that it is possible, but really need a lot of money, a lot of people to work on that, and a lot of field work, and because I like that so much. That means this is some basic level of knowledge that we need to know about species that are present on our planet. For sure, the next step will be monitoring of the species, but for first, I will go on some modest way to understand the global diversity of pollinators on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Šonik?
Okay, can I have two?
Yeah, you can have three. Yeah, of course.
Okay, the first one is to digitize all of the collections of pollinators in Croatia and have those specimens validated and checked. This maybe doesn't sound ambitious to some, but it's very time consuming and expert consuming. And I think it's so important to use what we already have in a better way than we are currently using it, which is no way at all. And the second thing would be to use the fact that we have weather stations across Croatia by DHMZ that are constantly measuring all of the environmental data and I would like to set up permanent transects to collect certain taxa around those actual weather stations. I think this is a good coupling of what already exists. And I think that this kind of long-term data that is coupled with environmental data is something that is very important to have permanently deposited in collections, in museums, because this is the legacy that will leave for next 200, 300 years for the next generations.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
So it's a little bit like Ante's comment about understanding global pollinator diversity. It would be a project working on species concepts across the old world, but with the specific goal of training and developing new generation taxonomists and ecologists who can both generate new knowledge and then also apply it and implement it in terms of monitoring, from sort of here to, well, not here, from Europe to New Guinea and south into Africa.
Thank you. Just a little bit to backtrack on one of the question. What are some emerging trends, tools, or new methodologies that you're most excited about for the future of pollinator research? Dr. Ivana?
Sorry to find my microphone. Well, yeah, we already mentioned the AI tools and stuff. I don't think, I mean, I don't know, maybe they will be able someday to do what taxonomists do now, but at the moment, I don't think that's possible. I hope I'm wrong, because like I said, not many people out there do taxonomy, and it's the bottleneck we all struggle with. So what caught my attention recently, because I met a colleague from Slovenia who does this really well, is it sounds really interesting for me. He actually, it's bioacoustics. He actually record bee flight, bee sounds, and then analyze it to detect presence, activity patterns, and he's working towards species identity. There's a paper he recently published about the bee species in South America. Because it's really huge and really distinctive sound, it can actually recognize to species level. I think it's amazing, and it's non-invasive method that can bring a lot of data, continuous monitoring data at scales we usually cannot do by ourselves. So I think this bioacoustics, it's really interesting, and I look forward to see where it goes.
Interesting. Dr. Thomas?
Yeah, so I'm not fantastically excited about AI in terms of identification of bees, but I am more and more excited about how powerful DNA techniques are becoming. And we can go further and further back in time with museum specimens, and we can understand more and more from smaller and smaller samples. So the progress that has been made in 20 years, from the basic DNA barcoding to sort of low coverage whole genome sequencing, in another 20 years, who knows where we'll be.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
I will join to Thomas, because this is really some good combination. I can say that should be not very good, but excellent taxonomic brain. That means that is one. Other is we need support of genetic data. That means this is something that we need to have also. We use that already, and this is good combination, because sometimes even the best taxonomists cannot recognize some species without some genetical support. That means this will go on the direction that will be cheaper and cheaper, and we can use more and more genetic information. And also I like this Joanna approach, because that seems to me one possibility, if you do on very deep way, that you can see many species present on the field without any invasive methods to go to collect, etc. Only to know this and this species exist there, especially the species that produce some sound, but also bees and horflies, not all, but most of them produce some sound, butterflies not, but these two, that mean that can be good for the monitoring, like something that you can get information without so many effort to go to the field and spend the time there. That mean for the future, these two, that mean genetics and this sound, can be very good. This recognition by artificial intelligence, it will be someday in the far future, but without many taxonomists on the way to go there, they can produce many photos and other things that put together all the data. It will be difficult. That means first taxonomist, and after that can arrive this artificial intelligence. Seems to me this is the way.
Dr. Ishonik?
There's an AI for moths that apparently works really well in northwestern Europe. So I'm excited and curious to see when more images of moth species from southeastern Europe is added, how well it holds up, because I think it can be a great tool for things like butterflies and moths, but we'll see. And then the other thing that I think it's interesting is eDNA for pollinators. And but I think that we should think about a lot of these tools as something that is very informative in addition to traditional methods, because, for example, eDNA is not going to find all of the species in the same way, and it will have different biases than the biases that we have when we're hand collecting in the transect. But combining those methods can really enable us to just get better results.
Thank you. We are very good on time. And the last question for this panel would be, what message would you share with young scientists passionate about protecting pollinators? We can start with Dr. Joanna, and you don't will have any time limit for this because we're so good with time.
What message? Well, the pollinators are really complex, and sometimes the progress is often slow. I would say that persistent matters, and sometimes it takes maybe a decade to have a research that you're really proud of, that can change things. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe my main message would be that don't limit yourself with only one discipline. I truly believe that future of any kind of protection, pollinator protection, any kind of biodiversity protection, it's we need more skills, not just one. Like, this is advice I got, and I really appreciate it. If you have different perspectives, and if you work on your skills not just as biologist, I think the more impact you can have. And if you're not good at it, you can team up with someone who is. We cannot be all good at everything. Somebody enjoys field work, somebody likes to stay in the lab and do taxonomy, someone really enjoys analyzing the data, and so create a team around you that you can work together, collaborate with people, and I think then your work will be something to be proud of.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
Sorry, I would say advice is to be brave and go for it. If you are interested in this field, it is not a huge field. There are not a vast number of people working in it. Just do it. Go for it.
Thank you. Professor Ante?
That was a very bad signal now from Thomas. I don't know if for others, but I cannot hear many things. But okay. My message, science is fun. This is joy. If you are a scientist, you can experience many interesting things in your life, many discovery, many new things to know, many people to meet, many opportunities to enlarge your horizons, and you go and travel and visit very nice places all over the planet, especially if you work with taxonomy. And my case is horflies. When I was 17, I decided to become scientist. That was my decision that I keep all the time in mind. But still, I was for sure not, if somebody tell me at my age of 17 that I will work with flies, I will say, no, I will change my life. I will do other things. I don't like to work with flies because it seems to me stupid. But finally, I really enjoy all my days in the lab, in the faculty, on the field. And that was really great pleasure. And I say, please go, experience, and you will never regret to be scientist. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Dr. Ježonik?
So my advice to young people would be to read books. I think we often get our information about the organisms that we love from papers, from talks, from online bits, or from our own work. But the pollinators are one area where there's so many good books written. So take your time and read some classics and enjoy it. It's there's so much literature on pollinators, and a lot of it is fantastic.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ježonik, and thank you so much to all of the panelists for joining us today for this European panel and this event. Thank you again also for all of the participants who listened so far, and hopefully who will stay for our next panel. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for invitation. That was nice. And
yeah, hopefully we will collaborate in the future as well. Regarding the rest of the event, the next event will start precisely in 20 minutes, so 12:15. I can already see that our Australian panelists are here. European panelists, of course, you can stay for the rest of the event. Thank you so much for coming and joining us in this half. We'll have a short intermission now. The link will stay open to the entire day, and we can start again at 12:15, so in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Davor.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.